It is a significant piece of funding. It is the German Virtual Liver Network. It is a major national initiative funded by the BMBF, and I've been really, really pleased to have been asked to lead it. A bit of background. As Jens just mentioned, this is a program that has emerged from the successes and the hard work of the hepatocyst programs, which started out in 2001. Last year, and I had absolutely nothing to do with actually what happened last year, but there was a competition, as I understand it, of a number of projects that went forward to the BMBF for funding. But a decision was made on the basis of advice from the Scientific Advisory Board to focus their funding in one particular area, and to focus it on the liver. And it's one major program, which is now running at a funding level of 43 million euros over a period of 5 years. There will be a 3-year review and evaluation during the program. And as I say, as Jens just mentioned, the Virtual Liver Network, the Virtual Liver Network was launched at the beginning of April. Why are we focusing on the liver? Well, apart from the fact that hepatocyst was there and there's been some superb work that's been done there, clearly the liver is a major organ of homeostasis. It has a critical role in detoxification, and dysfunction of the liver creates a significant burden on healthcare budgets, as many of you will understand already. And a lot of that dysfunction is also associated with our Western lifestyle, and we need to be able to address that. In addition, as far as new medicines are concerned, toxicity is a major hurdle to deliver innovative new medicines to the marketplace. I think the other point here is that in working with the liver, there is an ability to access data at all levels of organisation, even up to the clinic, and that provides a fantastic opportunity for systems biologists to work together. And as I said before, we've had significant work that's already been done in hepatocysts and taking it forward, albeit at the cellular level. So if we look at the liver again, the impact on human health is very clear. If we look at the diseases of the liver, they're very, very common, but they vary in terms of incidence across territories across the world, from around 2% in India to something like 38% of the population in China. Here in Germany, it's estimated that about 6% of the population suffer liver disease, whereas in the States it's around 15%. So it's significant, it's a huge burden on health economics, and it's something that needs to be tackled, and that's a very good reason for focusing our attention on work on the liver. How does it go wrong? Well, viral infections, overindulgence in alcohol, which I'm sure people will be doing tonight and tomorrow, drug abuse, which I hope people won't be doing tonight and tomorrow, toxins and fat-rich diet, all of these things are clearly leading causes of liver dysfunction and liver damage. And the problem is that it not just stops there, but the consequences then from the mechanisms that are put in place to try and repair and recover from these insults, it causes regeneration, inflammation, the deposition of fibrosis in the liver, cirrhotic livers, and eventually, in some instances, also leading to carcinoma and ultimately liver failure, need for transplant, or the ultimate demise of the patient. Unfortunately, when we look at treatments for liver disease and any diseases, increasingly it's becoming very clear that we're not very good at doing it. And certainly the failure of clinics, of pharmaceutical companies to get success in the clinic indicates that actually we probably don't know an awful lot about what we're trying to treat. And even though we think we know an awful lot about the medicines, we don't really know how they operate truly in the physiology of the human. And this, for me, is a wonderful quotation from Voltaire, which illustrates, I think, the challenges of medicine, modern medicine, and the impact potentially that systems biology can have in terms of interpreting the complex networks, how they work in disease, in normal tissues, and how they respond to therapies, dragging networks, not entities, but networks, back from the disease state, approaching a normal situation. And I think this is a description of, I think, how systems biology can help us. The vision of the virtual liver network, which we're working on as a management team in the VLN at the moment, this is a sort of first pass of where we are. There's a little bit of debate, but essentially it represents our views. It'll be a dynamic mathematical model that represents, rather than fully replicates, the human liver physiology, the morphology, its function, and it will integrate the data from all levels of organisation, from subcellular work, which has been done in the hepatocyst, now through the levels of organisation, then to consider the whole organ. Yes, it's ambitious. Yes, it's not been done before in that way, but this is the vision of where we want to go with this program. The model is going to be composed of pathways, of networks, the functions that underpin the operation of the organ, but only those details which are necessary and sufficient to generate the dynamic view of liver function, which is validated in the context of human physiology and dysfunction. And that will be a way of being able to generate simulations and hypotheses which are testable either in the clinic or experimentally. And that way, we're hoping to be able to put a representation together of what actually goes on in the intact organ in the individual. What it is then, I'll reiterate it again because it's very important to understand, and managing expectations of a program like this is paramount. It's a representation. It's not trying to replicate all aspects of liver, every single entity in a computer. It's not trying to do that. If anything, it's more like a toolbox, and people may feel that's a bit disparaging of what this ambitious program is, but it is going to be a toolbox which will support our ability to interpret complex networks, our ability to understand how those networks operate, and the dynamics of those operations in terms of the function of the liver, both in the normal state and in response to disease challenges, and indeed in response to therapy. It will allow us to generate experimentally testable hypotheses in those models which are being used as simulations to test things out before you go into the clinic, before you go into an animal model, before you actually do an experiment at the bench. And in that way, it can help focus the attention of the work more efficiently and effectively on those things that appear to be applicable and doable first, rather than doing blunderbuss experiments. It will help us to inform better our ability to decide amongst options. This is critically important in the pharmaceutical industry, where all of the passages through the pipeline are based on decision-making on the data that's put together on the table in a particular project. Now, the error bars on decisions, because of the ways that we go about them at the moment, are pretty big. And the consequences in the clinic, we already know, are what we see are not great. If we have models and simulations that allow us to improve the gamble, if you will, and the estimates on those decisions, the error bars can be reduced, and with any luck then, we will be involved in a process that is improved decision-making with better decisions and better success rates at the end. This is what systems biology is about in terms of being able to support rather than replace current practice in biology and medicine. The important thing to regard here is that what we produce now over the next 5 years is a model or a series of models which are not cast in tablets of stone. They are flexible, they're modifiable, they can be improved and supplemented as we learn more, as techniques improve, as technology improves. It's pragmatic, it's not complete, it's not a replacement. Again, from Voltaire, the perfect is the enemy of the good. Trying to create a complete reproduction of the liver, apart from the fact that it would be impossible in my view, it's not really what we need. We need to be pragmatic, we need to have tools that will help us do what we need to do to fill the gaps in our knowledge and our understanding. So the objectives of the program are moving from the study at the cellular level to consider the whole organ, as I've already mentioned, building on the success of hepatocyst, but also looking at other areas. And in particular, I look to Dennis Noble, who'll be talking in a moment, and the work that he's done with Peter Hunter and their groups on the virtual heart. Understanding what they've done there, trying to do for the liver